Kate spent Wednesday afternoon preparing for what felt like the most important mission of her life. She had never followed anyone before, and she wasn't sure she could pull it off without being detected. But she needed to know where William met Sarah, and more importantly, she needed to understand the full scope of their relationship before deciding what to do next. At 4:30, Kate positioned herself in her car across the street from William's office building. She felt ridiculous and slightly sick to her stomach, but she forced herself to stay focused on her goal. William usually left work between 5 and 5:30, and today she would be ready to follow him wherever he went. While she waited, Kate's mind wandered to all the conversations she and William had shared about honesty and trust. Early in their relationship, they had both agreed that communication was the foundation of any strong partnership. William had told her about his parents' divorce, which had been caused partly by his father's infidelity, and he had sworn he never wanted to put someone he loved through that kind of pain. The irony was almost unbearable. Kate had felt so secure with William precisely because he seemed to understand how devastating betrayal could be. She had believed his promises about honesty and commitment because they seemed to come from a place of genuine understanding about what broken trust could do to a relationship. At 5:15, Kate saw William emerge from the building with two of his colleagues. They stood talking for a few minutes before the other men headed toward the parking garage. William, however, started walking down the street instead of toward his usual parking spot. Kate quickly started her car and began following him at a distance. William walked 6 blocks before entering a small coffee shop called The Daily Grind. Kate parked where she could see the entrance and waited. Through the window, she could see William sitting at a table in the back corner, checking his phone repeatedly. He was clearly waiting for someone, and Kate's heart pounded as she realized she was about to see Sarah in person again. At 5:45, Sarah Chen walked into the coffee shop. Even from across the street, Kate could see the transformation in William's face when Sarah appeared. His entire posture changed, becoming more animated and alert. He stood up quickly and embraced Sarah in a way that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Watching William hug another woman with such obvious affection felt like being stabbed in the chest. Kate had seen William greet female friends and colleagues before, and this was completely different. This was the way William hugged Kate when he came home after a long business trip, full of genuine joy and relief at being reunited with someone he loved. Kate forced herself to keep watching as William and Sarah sat down together. Even though she couldn't hear their conversation, their body language told the entire story. They sat close together, leaning toward each other, their hands touching across the small table. Sarah laughed at something William said, and he smiled in response with an expression of pure happiness that Kate hadn't seen directed at her in months. The painful realization hit Kate that William might actually be happier with Sarah than he was with her. This wasn't just a casual affair or a moment of weakness. William looked genuinely in love with Sarah, more in love than Kate had ever seen him look with anyone, including herself. After about 40 minutes, William and Sarah left the coffee shop together. Kate followed at a distance as they walked to a nearby park. They found a bench under a large oak tree, and their conversation became more intense. Kate could see Sarah gesturing emphatically about something, and William nodding seriously in response. Kate wished desperately that she could hear what they were discussing, but she didn't dare get closer. Instead, she watched from behind a cluster of trees, feeling like a detective in a bad television show. The whole situation was surreal and humiliating, but she needed to know what William and Sarah were planning. After another 20 minutes in the park, William and Sarah stood up and embraced again. This time, William kissed Sarah deeply, and Kate had to turn away. Seeing the man she loved kissing another woman was more painful than she had anticipated. The physical intimacy between them was obvious and comfortable, suggesting they had been together many times before. When Kate looked back, William and Sarah were walking in opposite directions. William headed toward the parking garage where he had left his car, while Sarah walked toward the subway station. Kate decided to follow Sarah instead of William, hoping to learn more about this woman who was apparently planning a future with her boyfriend. Sarah took the subway 3 stops and got off in a trendy neighborhood Kate wasn't familiar with. She walked 2 blocks and entered an upscale apartment building. Kate waited outside for a few minutes, trying to process everything she had witnessed. The coffee shop meeting had clearly been about more than work. The intimacy between William and Sarah, the serious conversation in the park, and tomorrow night's planned meeting all pointed to a relationship that had moved far beyond a casual affair. Kate realized she had been living in a fantasy for months, believing she was in a committed relationship, while William was actually planning to leave her for someone else. The drive home was a blur of tears and anger. Kate felt like her entire life had been revealed as a lie. Every sweet moment with William, every plan they had made together. Every time he had told her he loved her, all of it had been happening while he was falling in love with someone else. When Kate arrived at their apartment, William was already there, cooking dinner and humming softly to himself. He looked relaxed and happy, presumably because of his meeting with Sarah. Kate wanted to scream at him, to demand explanations, to force him to admit what she had seen, but she managed to control herself and act as normally as possible. "How was work today?" Kate asked, setting down her purse and trying to keep her voice steady. "Oh, you know, the usual," William replied, not looking up from the stove. "Spent most of the afternoon working on the Henderson project with Sarah. We're getting close to finalizing the design." The casual lie made Kate's stomach turn. William had just spent the afternoon holding hands with Sarah in a coffee shop and kissing her in a park, but he was describing it as a work meeting. The ease with which he lied was almost more upsetting than the affair itself. "That's nice," Kate managed to say. "I'm sure the client will be pleased." William smiled at her. "I think so too. Sarah has some really innovative ideas about integrating the landscape design with the architecture. She's incredibly talented." Kate could hear the admiration in William's voice when he talked about Sarah, and it was different from how he talked about other colleagues. There was warmth and respect there, but also something deeper. William was clearly proud of Sarah's work and excited about their collaboration, both professional and personal. During dinner, Kate found herself studying William's face, looking for signs of guilt or deception, but he seemed completely comfortable, chatting about his day and asking about hers. He had apparently become so accustomed to lying that it no longer caused him any visible stress. "I'll probably have to work late tomorrow night," William mentioned casually as they were finishing their meal. "Sarah and I need to review the final presentation materials before we meet with the client on Friday." There it was. William was setting up his alibi for tomorrow night's meeting with Sarah. Kate felt another wave of nausea as she realized how calculated William's deception had become. He wasn't just lying spontaneously. He was planning his lies in advance. "That's fine," Kate replied, proud of herself for keeping her voice steady. "I have some work to catch up on anyway." After dinner, Kate excused herself and went to take a long shower. She needed time alone to think about what she had learned and what she was going to do about it. Standing under the hot water, Kate let herself cry for the first time since finding Sarah's note. The relationship she had treasured was over, even if William didn't know it yet. There was no way Kate could continue living with someone who had been lying to her so extensively. The trust between them was completely broken, and Kate couldn't imagine any conversation or explanation that could repair it. But Kate also realized she wasn't ready to confront William yet. Tomorrow night, he would meet Sarah at their usual place, and they would presumably discuss their future together. Kate wanted to know exactly what they were planning before she revealed that she knew about their affair. Part of Kate's motivation was practical. If William was planning to leave her, She needed to know so she could protect herself financially and emotionally. Their lease was in both their names, and they had some shared expenses that would need to be untangled. Kate wanted to be prepared for whatever William and Sarah decided. But another part of Kate's motivation was pure curiosity. She needed to understand how this had happened, how long it had been going on, and what William really thought about their relationship. Had he ever truly loved her, or had she been a placeholder until someone better came along? Kate also found herself wondering about Sarah's perspective on the situation. Did Sarah know about Kate's relationship with William? Was she comfortable being involved with someone who was already committed to someone else? Or had William lied to Sarah too, perhaps claiming that his relationship with Kate was over or not serious? That night, Kate lay awake again while William slept peacefully beside her. She watched his face in the dim light from the street lamp outside their window and tried to reconcile this familiar person with the stranger who had been deceiving her for months. William looked so innocent in sleep, so much like the man Kate had fallen in love with 3 years ago. It was hard to believe that the same person who held her hand during scary movies and brought her coffee in bed on Sunday mornings was capable of such elaborate deception. But Kate could no longer ignore the evidence. William was involved with Sarah Chen, had been involved with her for long enough to develop feelings and make plans, and was comfortable lying to Kate about it on a daily basis. Whatever love William might once have felt for Kate, it was clearly no longer strong enough to prevent him from pursuing someone else. The next morning, Thursday, William's behavior was exactly the same as always. He made coffee, kissed Kate goodbye, and promised to text her about his late night at work. Kate watched him leave and marveled at his ability to maintain such a perfect facade. After William left, Kate called in sick to work again. She had already decided that she was going to follow William to his meeting with Sarah tonight. She needed to hear what they were planning, and she needed to understand the full scope of their relationship before she decided how to end things with William. Kate spent Thursday morning making practical preparations for the end of her relationship. She researched apartment rentals in her price range, made a list of shared possessions that would need to be divided, and calculated how much money she would need to move out and establish her own living situation. The practical preparations helped Kate feel more in control, but they also made the situation feel more real and final. By evening, she would know exactly what William and Sarah were planning, and then she would have to decide how to confront William with what she had learned. Kate realized that part of her was hoping William would say something tonight that would prove his love for Kate was stronger than his feelings for Sarah. Maybe he would tell Sarah that he couldn't leave Kate, that he wanted to end their affair and work on his original relationship. But Kate knew that hope was probably unrealistic. The intimacy she had witnessed between William and Sarah the day before suggested a relationship that had moved far beyond the point of easy resolution. They looked like two people who had found something special together and were ready to fight for it. As evening approached, Kate prepared to follow William one more time. After tonight, she would have all the information she needed to confront him and end their relationship. She just hoped she would have the strength to handle whatever she was about to learn. Thursday evening arrived with an unseasonable chill in the air, and Kate felt as though the weather was matching her internal state. She had spent the entire day in a state of anxious anticipation, knowing that tonight would likely be the end of her relationship with William, one way or another. William left the apartment at 6:30, claiming he needed to pick up some materials from the office before his work session with Sarah. He kissed Kate goodbye, just like always, and she wondered if this would be the last time they would share such a normal moment together. Kate waited 15 minutes before leaving the apartment herself. She had decided that tonight she wasn't going to hide across the street or watch from a distance. If William and Sarah were making plans that would affect her life, she deserved to hear those plans directly. Based on yesterday's meeting, Kate suspected their usual place was either the coffee shop or the park. She decided to check the coffee shop first. since it seemed like a more private location for a serious conversation about their future. When Kate arrived at the daily grind, she could see William and Sarah through the window, sitting at the same corner table they had occupied the day before. This time, however, their conversation looked more intense and serious. Sarah was holding William's hands across the table, and both of them looked emotional. Kate took a deep breath and walked into the coffee shop. She ordered a coffee at the counter, her hands shaking slightly as she handed money to the cashier. Then she turned around and walked directly to William and Sarah's table. "Hello, William," Kate said quietly. "Hello, Sarah." The effect of her appearance was immediate and dramatic. William's face went completely white, and his mouth fell open in shock. Sarah looked confused for a moment before recognition dawned in her eyes, followed quickly by what appeared to be genuine embarrassment. "Kate," William stammered, "what are you doing here? I thought you were at home working." "I was following you," Kate replied, sitting down in the empty chair at their table without being invited. "I've been following you since yesterday. I know about your relationship." The silence that followed was deafening. William and Sarah exchanged glances, and Kate could see them both trying to figure out how much she knew and what they should say. "Kate, I can explain," William began, but Kate held up her hand to stop him. "Before you start explaining, I think you should know that I found Sarah's note," Kate said. "The one where she tells you how incredible Tuesday night was and asks you to meet her here to discuss your future together." Sarah's face flushed red, and she looked down at the table. William closed his eyes and ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Kate recognized as his way of dealing with extreme stress. "How long has this been going on?" Kate asked, surprising herself with how calm her voice sounded. William and Sarah looked at each other again, and Kate could see them having a silent conversation about who should answer and how much truth they should reveal. "6 months," Sarah said quietly. "It's been going on for 6 months." The confirmation hit Kate like a physical blow, even though she had suspected the affair had been going on for a while. 6 months meant that William had been lying to her every single day since October. 6 months meant that their anniversary celebration in November, their Christmas together, and their recent discussions about moving to a bigger apartment had all happened while William was in love with someone else. "Were you going to tell me?" Kate asked William directly. "Or were you just going to keep lying until you figured out how to leave me for Sarah?" William finally found his voice. "Kate, it's not that simple. I never meant for this to happen. Sarah and I just connected in a way I wasn't expecting, and things developed naturally between us." "Things developed naturally," Kate repeated, feeling anger building in her chest. "While you were living with me, while you were telling me you loved me every day, while we were making plans for our future together." "I do love you," William said desperately. "I've always loved you. But what I feel for Sarah is different. It's stronger. I can't help that." The honesty of William's words was more painful than any lie could have been. Kate realized that William wasn't going to apologize or beg for forgiveness. He was actually trying to justify his behavior by claiming his feelings for Sarah were beyond his control. "So, what exactly were you two discussing tonight?" Kate asked. "What plans were you making for your future?" Sarah spoke up for the first time since admitting the duration of their affair. "William was telling me about his plans to end your relationship. We weren't trying to hurt you, Kate. We just fell in love, and we want to be together honestly." Kate turned to William. "You were planning to break up with me? When exactly were you going to do that?" "This weekend," William admitted. "I was going to tell you this weekend. Sarah and I have been talking about it for weeks, trying to figure out the right way to handle everything." Kate felt a bitter laugh escape her lips. "The right way to handle everything? You mean the right way to handle the fact that you've been cheating on me for half a year while I was completely oblivious?" "We know we handled this badly," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We both feel terrible about hurting you, but we can't change how we feel about each other." Kate studied Sarah's face and realized that the other woman was genuinely upset about the situation. Sarah wasn't a villain who had deliberately stolen someone else's boyfriend. She was a woman who had fallen in love with a man who happened to be in a relationship with someone else. "Did you know about me when this started?" Kate asked Sarah directly. "Yes," Sarah admitted. "William told me about you right away. I tried to stay away from him, but the feelings were too strong. I'm not proud of that, but I can't pretend it didn't happen." Kate appreciated Sarah's honesty, even though it didn't make the situation any less painful. At least Sarah wasn't trying to pretend she was innocent, or that she hadn't known William was unavailable. "And you," Kate turned back to William, "have been lying to me every single day for 6 months. Every time you told me you loved me, every time you made plans with me, every time you came home from being with her and pretended everything was normal." "I know how it looks," William said, "but I was trying to figure out what to do. I didn't want to hurt you, and I was hoping my feelings for Sarah would fade so I wouldn't have to choose between you." "But they didn't fade," Kate stated. "No," William admitted quietly. "They got stronger." Kate sat in silence for a moment, processing everything she had learned. William and Sarah had been in love for 6 months, had been planning to be together, and had been trying to figure out how to end Kate's relationship with William in the least harmful way possible. The irony was that their attempt to spare Kate's feelings had actually made everything worse. If William had been honest with her 6 months ago, when his feelings for Sarah first developed, Kate could have dealt with the end of their relationship with some dignity intact. Instead, she had been living in a fantasy while everyone else knew the truth. "I need to ask you something, William," Kate said finally. "When you were with me these past 6 months, were you thinking about her? When you told me you loved me, were you wishing you were with Sarah instead?" William's hesitation before answering told Kate everything she needed to know, but she waited for him to speak. "Sometimes," he admitted. "I tried not to, but yes, sometimes I was thinking about Sarah when I was with you." The confession was devastating, but also strangely liberating. Kate finally had the complete truth about her relationship with William. He had not only been physically unfaithful, but emotionally absent as well. "Thank you for being honest," Kate said, standing up from the table. "I think that's all I needed to hear." "Kate, wait," William called after her as she turned to leave. "We need to talk about practical things. The apartment, our things, how we're going to handle everything." Kate turned back to face him. "We can figure out the logistics later. Right now, I just need to get away from both of you." As Kate walked toward the door of the coffee shop, Sarah called out to her. "Kate, for what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know that doesn't change anything, but I want you to know that we never wanted to hurt you this badly." Kate paused at the door and looked back at Sarah. "The thing is, Sarah, I don't think you cared enough about hurting me to stop what you were doing. Being sorry after the fact doesn't mean much when you made the choice to continue your relationship for 6 months, while I was being lied to every day." Sarah looked stricken by Kate's words, but Kate felt no satisfaction in making the other woman feel bad. She was simply stating the truth as she saw it. Kate left the coffee shop and walked to her car, feeling emotionally drained but also oddly relieved. The uncertainty and confusion of the past few days were over. She knew exactly where she stood with William, and she knew exactly what she needed to do next. The drive home was surreal. Kate found herself thinking about all the small moments over the past 6 months that now made perfect sense. William's increased attention to his appearance, his new cologne, his sudden interest in restaurants Kate had never heard of, but that he claimed to have discovered through work colleagues. There had been signs everywhere. But Kate had trusted William so completely that she had explained them all away in her mind. She had been living with a stranger for months without realizing it. When Kate arrived at the apartment, she immediately began packing her clothes and personal belongings. She had no intention of spending another night in a place that no longer felt like home. William would probably want to discuss things when he got back, but Kate was done talking. She had heard everything she needed to hear at the coffee shop. William was in love with someone else and had been for 6 months. Their relationship was over, and no amount of discussion was going to change that fact. As Kate packed, she felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. The sadness was obvious. She was losing a relationship she had valued and a future she had been looking forward to. But the relief was unexpected and powerful. Kate realized she had been sensing something was wrong for months without being able to identify what it was. Now she understood why she had been feeling disconnected from William and uncertain about their relationship. Her instincts had been trying to tell her something was wrong, but she had ignored them because she trusted William more than she trusted herself. That was a mistake Kate vowed never to make again. By the time William returned to the apartment an hour later, Kate had packed everything that belonged to her and was loading boxes into her car. William stood in the doorway watching her, his face a mixture of shock and sadness. "You don't have to leave tonight," he said quietly. "We can work out the details gradually." "Actually, I do have to leave tonight," Kate replied without stopping her work. "I can't stay in a place where I've been lied to for 6 months. I can't sleep next to someone who's been in love with someone else this entire time." "Where will you go?" William asked. "I'll figure it out," Kate said. "I have friends, family. I'll be fine." William helped her carry the last few boxes to her car, and Kate could see that he was struggling with the reality of her departure. Part of her wondered if he was having second thoughts about his choice. But it was too late for that now. "Kate," William said as she got into her car, "I want you to know that I did love you. I still do love you, just not in the way you deserve to be loved." Kate looked at him through the car window. "I believe that you loved me as much as you were capable of loving someone while you were in love with someone else. But that's not enough for me, William. I deserve to be someone's first choice, not their second option." As Kate drove away from the apartment she had shared with William for 2 years, she felt like she was driving away from an entire chapter of her life. The future she had imagined with William was gone, but for the first time in months, Kate felt like she was moving toward something real instead of living in a fantasy. Kate would eventually learn that William and Sarah moved in together within a month of her departure. She would also learn through mutual friends that their relationship didn't last beyond a year. Whether their love couldn't survive the guilt of how it began or simply wasn't as strong as they thought, Kate never knew. But she did know that she had made the right choice in walking away when she did. The discovery of Sarah's note had changed everything, but it had also given Kate the information she needed to reclaim her life and her self-respect. Sometimes the most devastating discoveries were also the most liberating ones.